Good everyone, welcome to this video, and today we have a top 5 biplanes in War Thunder. Once again, just like the last top 5, there's going to be timestamps in the description below, so if you want to just skip right ahead, please do feel free to do so. These are going to be short, normal, or just short top 5s that I'm going to be doing. I'm not going to be doing them every week or something like that. I'm just going to do them once in a while, and there's going to be different ones. So we're going to start off with an honourable mention, which is the HS123. The only reason why this isn't in the top 5 is when it gets slow, it gets extremely clunky. Mostly thanks to the two-bladed prop and the rather weak engine. However, this thing is a great dive bomber. It functions very well as a fighter as well, but as I said, once you get below 150 miles an hour, it does not like doing anything, which does hold it back, so that's why it's not in the top 5, unfortunately. Otherwise, it probably would be like number 5, number 4, maybe, but you'll see what's going to be taking the crown from that. Anyway, let's move on to number 5. And at the number 5 spot, we have the J6B. This is a Swedish biplane, and it's very interesting to say the least. I know some people wouldn't think of this thing when it comes to the top 5, but this thing is actually a lot of fun. It is a little bit slow, and its guns aren't the greatest, but boy is this thing agile. It's really fun. I had a blast spinning this thing, so yeah, I really can't fault this thing. There is one major flaw, which you can probably tell, and that is the engine is pretty much exposed to the elements, so if someone throws a beer bottle, it will probably take out your engine. So do bear that in mind. But other than that, this thing's highly agile, easy to fly, and well, whilst it doesn't exactly take hits very well, yeah, it's agile as heck and it's a lot of fun. So that's why it's at number 5. At the number 4 spot, we have the CR42 Falco. This is one that would probably be number 3, but there is better biplanes than this. The CR42 is probably one of the faster biplanes that you can have, and it does trade that for its maneuverability. It isn't the most maneuverable, but it climbs really well, dives really well, and it has great guns and really redeems itself in that regard. It is a blade that can get quite clunky, but you've got to bear in mind this is not exactly a dogfighter's biplane. This is more of a boom and zoom sort of biplane, which seems a bit weird. But it's a great learning tool, and to be honest, it's how I really fell in love with the Falco, is the fact that it was different from everything else. And yeah, as I said, the gun's really good, or the guns are really good, I should say. The engine is pretty good, and even has EFS nowadays. Not that that's going to help it, but the guns are incredibly good as they're 12.7 Predator Fats. They're probably, well, they're the highest caliber machine guns other than the F3F. And yeah, this thing packs a real punch, it climbs pretty well, and it handles pretty decently. Just don't expect to be winning turn fights with it every so often. But even so, that's why it's here. At the number 3 slot, we have the I-15 Biz. This was actually quite a hard one to determine because, see, there's quite a few biplanes that would probably give this thing a run for its money, but generally speaking, the I-15 Biz is just better out of all of those. And obviously, there are some exceptions to that, which we'll get into shortly. But this plane is really good. The only real downside is the guns, because they're PV1s, which are based on the old Maxim machine gun. They are a bit crap these days, and they don't tend to do as much damage as people hope. But other than that, this thing climbs decently well, it handles decently well, and overall just has great characteristics. And heck, if you really want to, there's a premium one, which I still need to pick up at some point, but you know, that's something I need to think about. But heck, it's a pretty good premium, like it would be a pretty good premium, and it even carries some rockets, which is pretty useful. Obviously, the rockets are a bit shit, I will say that. But the 50 kilogram bombs are more than enough to nail most tanks that the BR it's going to be fighting at, and heck, I've seen people up tier these things to like 6-3, killing King Tigers with 50 kilogram bombs. It's easily doable, and this thing is just a kite when it comes to its handling. However, there are better biplanes for this, as you'll see in the number 2 slot. And coming as no surprise, the number 2 slot goes to the I-153 M62 Chaika. This really needs no introduction now, does it? It's much better than the I-15 Biz. It does feel a little bit less maneuverable, but that's probably just me. Don't know, but that's probably just me, to be honest. It packs a great climb rate, has the Shikest machine guns as opposed to the PV-1s, has twice the bomb load, has 2 more rockets if you really want to use the rockets, even though I don't advise it. And this thing is a menace to low tier. Not only that, you also get the premium one, the Zhukovsky's Chaika, in the Russian starter pack, and will really help you out in the lower tiers. But unfortunately, the Chaika does have one mean rival which it needs to worry about, which it doesn't meet very often because the Chaika does get up tiered quite a lot. But I think it's safe to say this biplane takes the crown. Let's move on to number 1. And I'm sure Meta Replication will appreciate this one. At the number 1 spot, we have the F3F2. This thing really needs no introduction. It gives the Chaika a bloody nose in its dogfighting capabilities. It climbs just as good as the Chaika, has just as good guns as the Chaika, unless the 50 cal runs out, which is an entirely different subject. It's highly maneuverable, recently got separate bomb drop for its 100-pound bombs, which, I mean, that's nothing to write home about. But the fact is this plane has always given me a good time. It's very fun to play, very simple to play, and against the Chaikas, you just take it into the vertical and watch them just, well, struggle, to be honest. Main reason for that is the engine on this thing is really good. Obviously, the Chaika does have a horsepower advantage if we just go over to the Chaika, but the Chaika feels a little bit more heavier than the F3F. And just overall, the F3F is just more versatile than the I-153, and just feels better to fly, to be brutally honest. And as I said, with that 50 cal, you can top down pretty much any tank you're going to run into. The bombs obviously dropping separately is a big benefit, same with the Chaika, because that also has that ability. But to me, if I had to pick a biplane to play, if I just want to mess around, I would 100% take this thing. And that concludes the top 5 for the biplanes. This is going to be something, like I say, we're just going to be doing every so often. If you want to see anything specific, please do leave it in the comments below, and I will do it. Anywho, I'll leave you all to it for today. I hope you enjoyed seeing this mini top 5 of the biplanes, and I'll see you all on the next one.